Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Damon, and today we're going to talk about Joker. I just saw the movie a few hours ago, and it was interesting. But first of all, if you clicked on this video because you saw Joker in the title and you think this is just going to be some movie review and you're interested in seeing a movie review, that's not what this is. So if you think that's what this is, peace out. So on this channel, we usually talk about stuff from a Christian leftist perspective. And so when watching this movie, I immediately saw all the class implications here. And I wrote something up about it because, oh man, I came away feeling a lot. I had a lot of thoughts and feelings from this movie. And I was pretty disappointed, actually. I was really looking forward to this when the trailers came out. I was so excited. Of course, I was excited for Joaquin Phoenix. I was excited because it was a Joker movie, and I grew up loving superheroes, and I still do. And Joaquin Phoenix was awesome, for sure. The absolute best part of this whole movie. But it was still disappointing. And so I need to talk about this, and I want to get this over with. And so I just wrote up my thoughts, and I'm just going to read them instead of doing this whole thing where I edit stuff, because I want to get this over with and just move on from this movie. So I think this is important. So check this out. There will be some spoilers. Let's talk about Joker. Okay. The first half was extremely fascinating to me because it was showing the absolute hell it is to be poor in the city. There was a constant talk of unemployment, worker strikes, defunding of public programs, and even super rats infesting the city. And on top of all this hell was Wayne Enterprises CEO Thomas Wayne. And seeing that juxtaposition really made me see how problematic the general idea of Batman can be. This is something that a lot of people have pointed out before, and I especially felt it like when watching this movie. The fact that Bruce Wayne is this filthy rich billionaire living in a mansion located in the poor rundown city of Gotham, filled with people who turn to crime because of poverty, a setting that is very common in the real world. And instead of putting his money into the city and starting up job programs and social programs that will help the poor of Gotham, he decides to largely let Gotham remain as is and then dress up as a bat in the middle of the night to beat them up. Man, Batman. And even worse, a lot of these criminals that he beats up are mentally ill. Most of Batman's villains are escaped mental patients from Arkham Asylum that he beats up some more when they escape and then throws them back in. And if Batman ever questioned why so many criminals keep popping up in Gotham no matter what he does, you'd be absolutely blind to his own hypocrisy. It's tough these days to pull off a story where a filthy rich superhero beats up poor mentally ill people. And it makes me also understand how Disney plays off this very safe way of doing things really well, having Tony Stark fight so many robots and aliens. It's like, of course, we're talking about fictional characters here, so it's not that big of a deal, and I'm not trying to cancel Batman or something like that. But Todd Phillips said he wrote this Joker movie trying to tell the most realistic story for how someone can become the Joker. And if we're talking about realism, the Batman story falls apart and Batman is exposed as a pretty horrible person pretty quickly. So the Batman story is best kept in a world of fantasy. But Joker feels realistic to a lot of people because Joker has always felt like this poor guy who got pushed around by society one too many times. And so he became the Joker as almost revenge against the society he hates that screwed him over. A lot more people can relate to parts of that story than any parts of Batman's story. But let's get to spoilers now. The story of the movie. In the movie, we see Joaquin Phoenix's character, Arthur Fleck, get kicked around by society, but it's clear that a lot of it is tied up in his severe poverty. And it culminates with him shooting and killing these 3 Wall Street investors who were drunkenly beating him up on the subway. He expects to feel guilty for it, is surprised that he doesn't feel guilty, and then continues with his life. The next day on the news, Thomas Wayne is lamenting the loss of these poor, innocent Wall Street guys, and in response to the news that a guy dressed as a clown killed them, Thomas Wayne assumes it was because the guy is envious of rich people, like a lot of people in Gotham are, and says they're envious of those of us who made something of our lives. Ugh, super disgusting classist jerk, Thomas Wayne. And then he says all these people are clowns, like the clown who killed these guys. This causes anger. Of course, so much anger in Gotham, and they take this insult and embrace it. Kind of like oppressed groups of the past have taken words used to insult them by their oppressors and embrace the words as a way of uniting themselves together. There's even this newspaper shown multiple times in this film with a picture of a clown with the headline, "Kill the Rich, a New Movement?" There's even a subtle anti-cop sentiment showing that the people saw and disliked the cops the same way that they saw and disliked Thomas Wayne. And the two cops' characters question Arthur's mom, which gives her a deadly stroke, and they don't even care. And really what I thought of when seeing parts of this movie was the Marxist concept of the Lumpenproletariat. People are usually familiar with the struggle between the bourgeoisie, the capitalist class, those who own the means of production, and the proletariat, the working class, those who sell their labor to the capitalists in order to get a paycheck for their labor but do not own any of the means of production or the products of their labor. But there's also the Lumpenproletariat, the group of people who are the poor underclass of society that have no relation to production because they don't have actual jobs. People like gang members, sex workers, drug addicts, homeless people, thieves, people who make a living through taking advantage of working class people, usually in a predatory way. Now, I'm not using the word predatory in a derogatory way here, but more of in a technical way. I'm sure there's several people like myself who have personally known people in this class, friends or family, and when you personally know people like this, you wish they wouldn't be doing what they're doing, but you also know that they're doing it out of absolute desperation and severe poverty, and that they feel like this is the only way they can make it in this screwed up world, and you see how screwed up it is too. In the book Social Class and Violent Behavior, David Brownfield talks about the struggle of poverty and how it leads to violence. And he says, the frustrations and the anger associated with unemployment and being on welfare are compounded by the lack of such fundamental necessities as food, clothing, and shelter among some of the disreputable poor. It would seem self-evident that such an environment of absolute deprivation may be the breeding grounds for discontent and violence. Pretty much everyone Batman fights are the Lumpenproletariat. Pretty much everyone that superheroes fight are Lumpenproletariat. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, actually because he is this normal, struggling, working class guy whose arch nemesis is the evil capitalist CEO of Oscorp, Norman Osborn. That's also one of the many reasons I don't like MCU Spider-Man, because both MCU Spider-Man movies have him fight working class dudes who are screwed over by Tony Stark. But anyway, Superman's arch nemesis being Lex Luthor also works really well in this way. And I appreciate those dynamics more than superheroes always fighting the Lumpenproletariat. It doesn't really work anymore. But it's easy to write these types of stories because most of society has disdain for the Lumpenproletariat, so it's easy to just write them off. Even Marxists throughout history have always been kind of unsure of what to do with them because they usually prove to be a threat to leftist organizing and mobilizing of the proletariat. In the Communist Manifesto, Marx called them the dangerous class, the social scum, that passively rotting mass thrown off by the lowest layers of the old society may here and there be swept into the movement by a proletarian revolution, its conditions of life, however, prepare it far more for the part of a bribed tool of reactionary intrigue. So often, these people are easily manipulated and used by reactionaries. Lenin felt this way too. And if you really dwell long enough on all their counter-revolutionary tendencies and ways they've been manipulated by conservative and fascists, you start to understand why Leninists think a revolutionary party to force things forward for the masses is necessary. But I don't know. But there are also Marxists who looked at the Lumpenproletariat favorably and saw the revolutionary potential, like the Black Panther Party. A lot of the Lumpenproletariat happened to be black people because of our history of marginalizing people of color. And also the understanding that they posed as a threat is what motivated the Black Panthers to want to try to mobilize them. Bobby Seale defined the group as the brothers who's pimpin', the brothers who's hustling, the unemployed, the downtrodden, the brother who's robbing banks, who's not politically conscious. But people also say a large reason the Black Panther Party fell apart was because of how many lumpenproletariats were in their ranks who just wanted violence. And I'm honestly not sure right now of good answers surrounding the lumpenproletariat. But what was clear to me was that Arthur Fleck in this movie was part of this class. Also, all the clown thugs that he recruits in all the Batman stories, also clearly lumpenproletariat. And a large amount of people who were starting this movement in the movie were lumpenproletariat. And it was violent. They killed cops, they destroyed property, and they caused absolute chaos in the streets of Gotham. So this movie kind of inadvertently shows a great example of how the lumpenproletariat are used as a tool of reaction that ultimately leads nowhere, unfortunately. And at around the halfway mark, I'm thinking, oh my God. Everyone had this movie all wrong. We were scared that this would influence white supremacist incel shooter types who want to take out their anger with the system by blaming minorities and killing them. But that's not what this movie is about. And if anything, this movie could influence people to kill the rich, not minorities. And oh my God, is this movie going to end with Arthur becoming the Joker and killing Thomas Wayne and his wife in front of Bruce Wayne as revenge for his classism? Because that would be an extremely interesting take on this whole larger Batman lore. Oh my God. Then we got to the second half, and I became severely disappointed. They should have had the Joker only be violent toward the capitalist bourgeoisie and not to other working class people. Things took a sharp turn when Arthur killed his own mom in the hospital because he found out she lied to him and never told him he was adopted. Then he kills his old coworker who got him fired. Then he goes on the Murray Franklin show because Murray Franklin, Robert De Niro's character, had made fun of Arthur's stand-up, and they wanted to bring him on the show to make fun of him some more. And Arthur planned to shoot himself on the show in front of a live audience. But he decided not to go through with it and decides to point the gun at Murray Franklin. And this is when the movie becomes so obviously Todd Phillips' big F-U to the world of comedy and PC culture, and becomes so cringy if you understand Todd Phillips' current beef with comedy and woke culture and stuff. So, during Joker's Murray Franklin appearance, there's a riot going on outside, inspired by him. And on the show, Joker reveals that he killed those 3 Wall Street guys. And Murray decides to scold him for this. And Joker starts laughing, and Murray's like, "Oh, you think that killing those guys is funny?" And he says, "Yes, and I'm tired of pretending it's not." And then he goes on this whole rant against all the people in the audience and at Murray, complaining. And this line sounds like basically straight from Todd Phillips to Twitter. He says, "You decide what's right or wrong the same way you decide what's funny and what's not." So angry. And that's the only line I remember like verbatim, but he keeps on this rant and on about how people don't really care about him, and Murray just wanted to bring him on to make fun of him some more. And Murray says, this sounds a lot like self-pity and blaming everyone else for being awful. And Joker says, you're awful, Murray. And he says he has another joke. And this isn't the exact line, but he says something like, what do you get when you cross a heartless society with a lonely, mentally ill person? And he says, you get what you deserve. And then he shoots Murray in the face. This is disappointing. Now, here's when we realize that it seemed like in the first half that Todd Phillips really does know what's going wrong with society, what's really harming society right now. But in the second half, he completely misses it. I remembered a quote from Todd Phillips that went viral from Vanity Fair, where he's talking about how woke culture has ruined comedy. And he said, go try to be funny nowadays with this woke culture. There were articles written about why comedies don't work anymore. I'll tell you why. It's because all the fucking funny guys are like, fuck this shit, because I don't want to offend you. It's hard to argue with 30 million people on Twitter. You just can't do it, right? So you just go, I'm out. I'm out. And you know what? With all my comedies, I think that's what comedies in general all have in common, is they're irreverent. So I go, how do I do something irreverent but comedy? Oh, I know. Let's take the comic book movie universe and turn it on its head with this. And so that's really where that came from. Todd Phillips seems to have wanted to tell this story, and he just uses Joker to tell it. So I then started to think more about this right-wing complaining about PC woke culture and how we have to be so sensitive and safe now. And I remembered that actually when Joker was in the dressing room before the show started, Murray said, just want to let you know, this is a family show, so no cursing, no off-color jokes, none of that. We have to keep it family-friendly. And I remembered that a lot of these anti-PC guys really lambast a lot of their complaints at today's late-night talk show hosts, who seem to have completely given in on woke culture and only do safe comedy and do jokes that will make people clap for how woke they are instead of laugh for how funny they are. Like people like Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel are the epitome of giving into woke culture for these guys. And Todd Phillips puts out a movie about a guy named Joker who shoots a late night talk show host in the face for not finding him funny. What the And it made me realize Todd Phillips makes this mistake that a lot of right-wingers today do, in thinking that the problem in society isn't the capitalists, like it seemed like he was hinting at in the first half of the movie, but the elites. Ooh, the elites. You hear a lot of talk on the right of liberal elites and coastal elites and general out of touch with real America elites. But this has almost become a conservative dog whistle at this point. And they use the word in a really odd way. For example, during the last election, they saw Obama and Hillary Clinton as elites. Yeah, they are. But not Trump as an elite. Trump, the filthy rich businessman. You see, conservatives have shifted the idea of elites to anyone who acts elitist. Therefore, seeing other proletariats as evil elites for calling them out on their crap, but also seeing actual filthy rich capitalist elites as not elites when they talk in an everyman vernacular like Trump. The word has become a way to ignore people who try to call you out for being problematic, and a way of ignoring the unjust behavior of capitalists. So, for Todd Phillips, both Thomas Wayne and Murray Franklin are together in this group of elites. in the same way that Hillary Clinton and Jimmy Fallon are in this group of elites, disconnected from real America, calling them deplorables and clowns and scolding them for not being woke enough. Because we have to realize a lot of people who are called out for being problematic really feel like they're being called out for not being intellectually evolved enough by elites who expect them to be more educated. And of course, a lot of working class people out there who are called out for these things generally are uneducated and feel like, why are you putting me down for being uneducated when I'm trying to spend all my time working to provide for my family instead of getting educated on all this stuff you're calling me out for? So, when we call people out online, it's like, it could easily look elitist. Very easily. So, it's easy for these people to fall into this illusion and see everyone who calls out problematic stuff as just a bunch of elitists. And therefore, in this movie, what made the Joker wasn't a corrupt system of inequality and exploitation of the poor, but the elites with their high expectations and disdain for people who don't meet those expectations. A lot of people online have already gone over the ridiculousness of Todd Phillips' comments about woke culture, so I don't feel it necessary to do so in this video, but I just wanted to break that down and remind everyone that there's a lot of propaganda out there that's designed to turn us against one another. And I think this hatred of elites and of intellectualism is part of that distracting and harmful propaganda that people are easily manipulated by these days. So don't be fooled. And Todd Phillips, I'm disappointed in you for taking a beloved comic book character and using him as your personal message to woke Hollywood elites. Should have written a blog or something instead of butchering the Joker the way you did. Those are all my thoughts. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos from me. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about what I said or about Joker, what you saw in it. And also, it's like, I mean, largely this is just an alright movie that we could just forget about later. If there wasn't all this controversy, that's all it would be. Just an alright movie we could forget about later. But anyway, I'm also on Twitch. You can follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/whoisdamon. Stream every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Follow me over there. Also, if you want to support me on patreon.com/Damon Garcia. I would greatly, greatly appreciate the support. Appreciate you all who helped me be able to do this. And shout out to my patrons already there. Karen in Colorado, Ranger Jenny, Refined Your Scene, James Finlay, New Transcendentalist, Kristen Mouse, Mike Talkman, Peter John Blake, Rob Hutton, Jack, Theory Plebe, Jacob McCarthy, Mike Lodato, Frank Morales, Vema Pasa, They Were Monsters, and Julianne King. Thank you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.